What is going on, family? Man, so, alright, you guys been rocking with me for a minute. So, I want to call you officially the YPM family. What's going on, YPM family? Welcome to the Your Perspective Matters podcast, where your perspective truly matters. We are a personal growth podcast, but we know that in order to grow, you have to be made uncomfortable. I live by this quote that says, uncomfortability breeds growth. So on today, as any and every podcast episode, there will be some uncomfortable things going on, right? I hope you guys don't hear that, but it's alright. We're gonna keep rocking and rolling anyway, right? So on today, so number one, I've created like some segments and everything, and wow. Oh well, introducing myself, I'm a little ahead of myself. My name is Ronald Wynn. I am your host, and I I wanted to be a bit more structured with my episodes, right? I've been speaking in different things for quite some time, so I can actually speak on a topic and go off the whim. Like I can definitely, you give me a topic of something, and especially if I'm having a conversation with you, oh, it's up, right? But when it's just me, I can still produce some information or a one-sided conversation, rather, which is never really one-sided. I never allow it to be like that. But I'm just coming from me, right? Um, but I feel like I wanted to be a lot better, so I created some segments, right? And one of the segments that I guess I want to start with before I start with my first segment. My second segment is called "Do I Have Your Permission to Make You Uncomfortable?" Right? So I'm asking myself that, right? Because I'm the only one here. But the reason why I'm doing that is because I gotta be vulnerable and transparent with you guys. On today, um, my I didn't even want to do this episode. I'm not even gonna lie to you, right? I'm trying to be as uncomfortable and honest as possible. Um, Especially being a podcaster, there's so many times where you are going to get discouraged. There are so many times where you are going to feel out of it. You're not going to feel in the mood, but you got to push through anyway. You literally got to push through. And I know my gift is speaking. My gift is in conversation. When we have conversations, it leads to transformation. So I have to be a good steward of that, and I have to learn how to produce anyway. I have to learn how to push forth, right? And I don't. This might be a word for somebody on today, but you have to learn how to produce regardless of how you feel. So, going into my first segment, right, which is really my icebreaker, but we already broke the ice, right? But my first segment, which is what did you conquer today? And I think my second my second segment is so beautiful because it leads me into that, right? The thing that made me uncomfortable is also the thing that I conquered. Because even though I didn't want to do the episode, right? I'm a Lyft driver. I'm kind of behind on some income right now or whatnot as far as paying off the car. So I gotta hustle and bustle. So time is of the essence. But I had to stop and do this episode. Yeah, I had to because there's something that is so powerful about working in your business, right? And I have a couple things going on, but the reason why I'm doing Lyft is I'm creating a business through it, right? And that'll be detailed later on, but for the most part, I'm creating and structuring a business out of it. So I need to work it as I'm gaining clients, so I can build my clientele and build from there, right? But what is also my actual business, what I am also a CEO of, right? The founder and creator of is the Your Perspective Matters Podcast LLC. So I need to take off my entrepreneurial hat and I need to put on my CEO hat. And when you put on your CEO hat, you have to understand that you gotta put in the work. You got to. Like, there is no timeout for this, right? There is no I can't do this because you can make your altercations, or you can make your times where if you need a break, that's cool, right? That is important, right? And we're going to be talking about those things in upcoming podcasts, right? How the importance of taking breaks. But on today, my focus is to really intentionally acting in what I am doing, which is my business, right? I want to work a lot more in my business until I can work on my business, right? That's very, very critical. You want to work in your business to the point where you start to work on, right? And working in your business is you doing all the work. Working on your business is you being able to expand the business and start to manage and start to do things of more marketing, start to delegate, and all of those different things, right? But on today, our focus, I want to talk to you guys about communication, because I've realized, especially nowadays, that we are not effective communicators. We're not. We are a one-sided. This is literally like a one-sided generation, right? This is a generation where it's like, hey, I'm only focusing, quote unquote, on myself, or I only care only of myself, but and we don't care about no one else, right? I need you to hear me however I speak, right? It is mandated for you to, but that's not true, right? We need to learn how to understand to effective communicate, right? And a part of effective communicate is understanding that there's two parts to the conversation, right? You cannot have a conversation with yourself. If you do that, then that means that you are crazy. Now, there's a difference between speaking to yourself and just having a conversation with yourself. If you are just hallucinating and just, hey, I'm having a A and B conversation with just A, something is wrong, right? But overall, there's two sides to the conversation. There is the receiver, and then there is the giver. There is the receiver, and there is the giver, right? So the responsibility, or the person that's the receiver, is the person that is speaking, right? And it changes, right? Right now, I could be the receiver, and then whoever else is on the other end, right? The second person is the receiver, right? So your objective is, or what you're doing is you're listening, and then it switches. And then when you talk, you are you are the giver, and then I become the receiver, right? It switches, and it's going to keep switching. If you have a conversation where there's two people, and it's only one person stays the receiver and one person stays the giver, that is not effective communication. That is not. So, on today, I want to focus on just some things, just to clarify, so that way we can be able to effectively communicate. And I think, which is what I named the title, set the atmosphere when you produce, right? I think it's important to set your foundation and set your what's the word? Just set your foundation so that way people can be able to communicate to you and to listen, right? To be able to speak to you, right? Because this is what happens, right? As the giver, as the person that's speaking, many times we are one-sided and we say, hey, whatever I say, you have to listen to. Matter of fact, I want to go back because I want to start from the receiver's end, right? I got to go backwards, right? Let's talk with the receiver, right? With the receiver is the person that is speaking. So, I mean, the person that is listening. So, on that end, which is why I love this to be a personal growth podcast, it has a lot to do with your personal development. Because we could be around somebody that's speaking a word and we need to hear it and it's going to change our life. But if we have earplugs in, right? If our attention is not set on the person that we're supposed to be listening to, we will not hear anything of what they're saying. And a lot of what they're saying can be helpful. Now, what I also learned about communication, about being the listener, is understanding that when you are the listener, you have to develop a level of discernment. When you develop the level of discernment, everything that the person is saying does not have to be for you. Hence, that's why I created Your Perspective Matters, because their perspective matters. Your perspective is true to you, but it may not be true to me. Only once I can switch my perspective on being able to view it the same way you do is when we come into agreement. I hope that makes sense, right? So, it is important as the listener to dissect what is for me and what is not for me. You don't have to take in everything, but I feel like it is important to take something. I think in every conversation, good or bad, long or short, I believe that there is even just the smallest of piece of something that you can take away from the conversation. Even if it was an argument. Arguments are conversations. It's just conversations that we don't like to have, right? But if we learn how to shift our perspective from, hey, you're not adding no value, to how could I see the value in what you're saying, regardless of how I feel and regardless of how you may be giving it off, right? That is important. But when we talk about going on to the speaker, going on to the giver, oh man, this is so critical, because what happens is the giver starts to blame the listener. And as they're speaking, they're like, hey, you're supposed to listen to me. Hey, you have to receive what I'm telling you. And yes, there is a part that plays with the receiver, because they have to listen, which means they have to have a level of personal development to be open. But what is so critical that we do not take responsibility of is the person that's speaking, right? Your intention has to match up with your impact. What you say to the person, just because I intend to give you some words of encouragement doesn't mean that my words are encouraging you. Oh, that's so good. Oh my God. Yo, that just gave me chills. Just because, oh my goodness. Just because I intend to encourage you doesn't mean that my words are encouraging you. So, we have to step back as the speaker and say, you know what? I have to take ownership for how you receive it. Remember, it's both parts, but we talking about your part now. We talking about the speaker's part now, right? If I don't care about how you receive this, that is a problem. If I don't set the atmosphere, right? I've talked with several of people. I have conversations all the time. And if I'm not focusing on if my intention is not, and this is the problem, sometimes our intention is not even to care about the other person. Sometimes our intention is like, you know what, I don't even care if you receive this or not. I need to tell you that you need to get your ish together. I need to tell you that you need to leave that relationship. But if you set the atmosphere, if you let them know, hey, can I offer some perspective, right? If I can offer you some perspective, they're going to, number one, that's going to open the door to allowing it to be a choice and not a demand. You as a speaker needs to make sure that you emphasize that it is up to them to receive it. Not that they have to. They don't have to do anything that you tell them. So when I speak, I'm always saying, hey, can I offer you some perspective? And I do my best not to say even advice. I don't even want to say advice because it might not be advice. It's just what I feel in my spirit is just what I feel I can offer you in this moment. When we set the atmosphere and the foundation, it allows not the giver, the receiver, to be able to listen well. Now you've opened the door. They had this wall built up, you knocked it down. Because it's no longer a demand. It is like, ooh, okay, offer me some perspective. Talk to me nice. You know? Like that's literally, and I believe it is important, right? And another reason why I have this podcast and why I talk about these things is because I think this is therapy, right? It's definitely therapy for myself, but I believe that in conversation in general is therapy. If we have effective conversation, we can have effective therapy. When you are in a therapist situation, what are they doing? They're asking you questions. They're trying to communicate with you. They're trying to break the ice. They're trying to get to know some information so we can target some things. If we as people can do that, I'm not saying to eliminate the professional the professionalism of being a therapist. But I'm saying that we would already have therapy everywhere because we have people everywhere. And if we have people everywhere, we as people have to take ownership of, you know what, I got to learn more about the minds of people. I got to know more about the characteristics of people. I got to know more about myself. This is why this is a personal growth podcast. Because if you are not personally growing, then you cannot expect anybody else to grow. So you have to focus on, you know what? I need to be on both sides. I need to be able to effectively listen, right? I got to be open. I got to be ready to receive. As well as I need to take ownership of what I say to the person. Sometimes it's what you say and not how you say it. Sometimes it's how you say it and not what you say. Regardless of what, it's one or the other, or it could be both. You probably said some things you shouldn't have said, and it was how you said it. So now that's a double whammy. Now it's like, you're playing with a double-edged sword, and you don't want to do that. I care about you, which is why I care about our conversations. Anytime you leave me, if you have a conversation with me, I want to say 99.9% out of the time, you'll have 1% of you that's changed. There will be some sort of transformation. You will see my point of view, or I will see yours. Another thing about effectively communicating as the giver, as the person speaking, is understanding that you have to play the part of listening while you're speaking. You got to pay attention to how they are adjusting and reacting and how they are maneuvering, or the body language, the repetition, the uncomfortableness, the uneasiness, all these different things. You have to pay attention to that. Because if you don't, you'll be talking to a brick wall. You'll be telling somebody to get their life together, which is what they need to hear in this moment. But because you didn't set the atmosphere, because you didn't serenade, what's it? The foreplay, right? When we are, when we're in our moments of intimacy, right? You want to make sure you have foreplay. You don't want to go in straight. You got to make sure everything is smooth. You got to make sure everything is accessible. You got to make sure that, hey, it's ready. The oven is ready, if you feel me, right? The kitchen is hot. You don't want to go in when the fridge is super cold. Nah, you don't want to do that. Nah. It's not going to be enjoyable for neither one of you, right? So I encourage you guys. Let's focus on effectively communicating. Let's focus on effectively listening, right? Effectively speaking, because what you say matters, and how you listen also matters. Another part about the listener, right? The receiver, is that you listening, right? I feel like we need to gain something from every conversation. Reason why is because what I listen to, right, what I'm gaining from this conversation could not just be for me. It might not have to do with anything about my life. It might not even be speaking about my life. But because of what I've listened to, I'm able to pour out into someone else. That's why effective communication is important. That's why me being an effective listener is just as important as me being an effective speaker. Because you never know what seeds you are going to be planting, or you never know the opportunities that come in your lap for you to sow the seed. And if you ain't got no seeds to sow, you done missed out on an opportunity. The quote I live by, right? Your process is connected to somebody's promise. So I need to make sure that I am in my journey planting the right seeds. So as I'm gaining the seeds from listening, I'm able to, as the speaker, as the giver, give them out to whom I need to give out. If I don't listen, I'm not able to receive the creation of the seeds. So that way I can be able to get around the people whenever I'm around, because you never know, it could be your daughter. You never know, it could be your parent. You never know, it could be your spouse. You never know, it could be the homeless person down the block. You never know, it could be the rich and wealthy person that just so happens to touch arms with you and they're just in your space. You never know. So you have to be ready at all times. What's the saying? Stay ready so you never have to get ready. But many of us aren't like that, and that's okay. So I'm challenging you to prepare yourselves, because there is a gift inside of you. I challenge you to become an effective listener. Be open, because what you listen to doesn't only affect you, but it affects others. And I challenge you to be an effective speaker, because what you say matters. What you say does impact, regardless of what you say. But the question now becomes, do I want what I say to impact them negatively, or do I want what I say to impact them positively? Me, I'm all positive. Sometimes you affecting them positive, they're receiving it negative. You have nothing to do with that. Sorry, listeners. I know you wanted to blame the speakers, but no. You have nothing to do with that because you've done your part. Now, when you don't do your part, that is your problem. Because had you done your part, it could potentially be, the outcome could have definitely been different. So I take that back. I want to be careful with my words. I challenge you to take responsibility. I challenge you to take ownership of your own part. Of your own part. So we are going to go, because I know I've been speaking for a little while, we're going to go with the last segment. And these are 3 questions, right? Question number 1. What's your perspective of growth? Ooh. My perspective of growth in this season is like my lifeline. I think it's super important to grow. I think that what's not growing is dying. Right? But I also think that there's part of us that we need to allow to die in order for us to effectively grow. Like, that is literally my lifeline. That is the reason why I'm living on today. I have no other reason to live, no other purpose to live except being able to, number 1, personally grow, but number 2, make people uncomfortable so we can all grow. Because as I make people uncomfortable, they grow. And as I do it to them, what you do to others, they do to you. So as I do to them to make them uncomfortable, guess what's going to happen? They're coming right back to me. Question number 2, what about you needs to grow? What needs to grow in me is organization. I am currently writing a poem called The High Caliber of a Man. And the 2 things that I'm going to write in there that I can give to you right now is that I need to grow in is organization and cleanliness. I'm not even going to lie. Can we be hot, humble, open, and transparent? Can I get uncomfortable with you? Right? This podcast episode, and I want to say this for the record, right? And I want you guys to hold me accountable as well. Every episode that I record, I need to have like a speech or something or some notes to be able to go to. That's a part of my organization for the podcast, right? I want to be I want to be one of those people that when you are also in like when you see on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram where they show you like the ASMR whatever, where you are doing all the clean stuff, or they show you the tips and tricks of how to clean and organize and all these different things to super organize. That's what I want. If y'all want to call me bougie for that, boom, so be it. That's fine with me. But I want to be so organized in my life. I know that things happen. I know that there's the spontaneous. I submit to that completely. But I want to be a lot more organized with my life, with how I love, with how I operate, with how I produce, with how I speak, right? With everything, right? I feel like that's part of being a high caliber of a man. And also the maintenance, right? I got to be more clean, right? I got to be able to brush my teeth longer, I don't know. I got to be able to wash my hands thoroughly. I gotta be, not that I don't do those things, but like I need to be a lot more clean. A lot more clean. My space, I need to make up my bed. I heard this thing about making up your bed every single day is like so important to personal growth, and I want to do that. Like I want to go into my house or my apartment or wherever I'm living, and it feels like the luxuriousness of a high class suite, right? Of a high class hotel or something like that, like a resort. Like it just smells like freaking peaches and roses. Like I that's what I want. So those are some things that I need to work on. And the last question is, what steps are you taking to grow in those areas? just taking action in literally that. Literally. Like, I'm in process of doing a super deep cleaning. I bought some cleaning products so that way I can do that, and to have a routine, right? Not only just clean once, but have a routine or a cleaning schedule. Oh wow. Sorry about that, family. Have a routine or a cleaning schedule that allows me to just be on a cycle, so that way I'm organized with the cleanliness. Because some of us say that, hey, we're clean, but we clean once a month. Some of us say, you know what, our floors are dirty, but we we mop once, and then we wait till the next 3 months, and then we complain about how dirty it is. But we have to focus on being organized with that. We have to focus on, hey, if I'm going to mop, let's do mopping twice a week, right? Or once in the middle, or something like that. Like, we gotta develop that routine. So taking action and doing the steps, right? Buying the equipment for the cleaning, and setting a schedule so I can be organized. But family, this was so amazing. I am so grateful that you guys have joined the podcast. I love you guys, all of you YPN family. You are so amazing. If you haven't already, right? I don't just want you to like. I encourage you to subscribe. And I encourage you to encourage someone else to subscribe. Share this podcast with someone else, because we are having effective, uncomfortable conversations, right? I'm getting as uncomfortable as I can, like giving you my whole life, right? It's going to be so much more. I got some guests that are coming that they're ready and willing to give you a fresh new perspective, because their perspective matters. And also to show the growth in people of all stages, whether you are a high caliber person or you're just at the low level. That's totally fine. But love where you are, love the process, love the journey of where you are, and you are able to just grow, because that's what we're here for. We're here to personally grow. So, family, I appreciate you for joining the Your Perspective Matters podcast. We are a personal growth podcast. I am your host, Ronald Wynn. Understand your perspective matters. I'll see you on the next episode. Oh.